Hello, and welcome back to Following Noladon, a Stormlight podcast. Episode 5.
Four.
Episode 4.
Nice try.
I'm going to cut that out. Today we are doing Interludes, Interlude 1, 2, and 3, and Chapter 12 and 13 of The Way of Kings. Paul, what are your 2 words for these chapters?
So the best I could try to summarize this, we have a wide variety, right? We have
There's
three separate individual interludes,
There is a wide variety.
and then 2 chapters. So the best I could do to try and summarize is humble and colossal.
Humble and colossal. Eliot, what do you have?
Those are good. I have lost and found.
Lost and found, and humble and colossal. Let's expound upon these. All right, interludes 1, 2, and 3. Let's talk about these first. Did any of these 3 make sense to either of you?
Nope.
A little bit.
Nope, and a little bit. So, interlude 2 and 3 are for you guys. Interlude 1 is absolutely not, but interlude 2 and interlude 2 and 3, you kind of understand what's happening.
I got a couple things. I noticed a couple things, but my general takeaway from these 3 was no idea what's going on. I'm gonna move on. It'll make sense later.
Yes,
I hope.
I do want to talk about interlude 2 and 3, and then we'll come back to 1.
Okay, I really liked 1. I really liked all of them, actually.
We'll
I
come
really
back
did.
to 1. Paul, tell me about your 2 words and why you picked them.
Okay, so first off, humble. Partly goes into the first interlude. We see a very rural and humble community of fishermen type folk
Okay.
and such, as well as later on we see a ton of new characters. I feel like the most new characters maybe in the book so far, maybe even more than the very start of the book. Tons of new characters, and one in particular, Dalinar Kholin, seems to be very humble, and he seems like to be a very admirable character, and so I kind of threw that word in there largely for him, his humility.
Okay.
My other word, colossal, mostly for the Chasmfiend. That about it. Yep, not incredibly deep there.
He is very colossal.
He's a big boy.
Yes, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
All right, Eliot, what are your lost and found mean?
So lost and found because for the first 3 chapters I was lost. But then I was a little bit found when we got back to chapter 12 and 13, and at least saw some names that I recognized. But I also said lost and found because Dalinar, the character we follow for the most part in 12 and 13, he kind of goes from a state of being lost to a state of being found at the end of chapter 13, where he's very distracted by these delusions or visions that he's having, and his sons notice that he's not the same self that he used to be. He seems very, maybe lost isn't quite the right word, but it fit well with lost and found, so I went with it.
Sure.
And then at the end of 13, Dalinar has this epic moment, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, and that was kind of his the old Dalinar has been found kind of moment for me. So lost and found.
Okay. Yeah, we will certainly talk about that in due time. But first, let's talk about I2, non-Balat. So, the scene is so, like, makes your skin crawl. You walk in on non-Balat, and he's pulling arms off a crab. And he's just talking about how much he misses his sister, and he doesn't think she'll succeed, but he's impressed with her anyway. And he's sitting there pulling legs off a crab, and you get to see what an axe hound is, but it's kind of this chapter kind of makes me like laugh in kind of an ironic way of this is a pitiful scene. He he's
It's gross.
It is gross.
It's genuinely like, so my big thought on this chapter is it's showing non-Balat in almost this like sadistic light that makes you really worried. It makes me worried, you know. You hear even like with real life stories of, you know, people who like torture animals go on to do very bad things, and it makes me very worried about, you know, if his mental state is okay. I mean, it's very difficult to think about. You don't want to think about it. I mean, it could just be a hobby. I don't. But
that doesn't make it better.
yeah, I know. But it makes me wonder. So this is a member of Shallan's family, right?
Mm-hmm. It's her older brother.
I didn't. A older brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually did not. Like with the starting like depictions, I never would have assumed that they were related. You know, it seems like he's also with the discussion we've had with the reading of Shallan chapters. I mean, she's doing what she's doing to help her family,
mm-hmm.
and it makes me wonder if she knows her family or if she really knows what's going on, or if maybe there is like Elliot had mentioned. I mean, there's stuff we don't know about her father's death and such. Maybe this was more of a traumatic thing, and maybe they're all a little more like hurt than we've seen. So yeah, I'm a little scared with this interlude. I'm not gonna lie, it scares me.
Yeah, those are some good thoughts, Paul. I'm with you for sure. I think the biggest thing for me, I'm with everything you said. The biggest thing for me was just the shock of, wait, this is Shallan's brother? Like, they're so different. Shallan is just this innocent, sweet, honest little girl, kind of. And then here we have her older brother just sadistically torturing little crabs for the whole chapter, like multiple crabs. Like, what is going on? I was thrown for a loop.
It was also oddly profound. I think whenever it talks about the description of the crab, and it talks about, you know, you can't even tell it's alive whenever we don't have our arms to wave about and such. And I feel like that was strangely profound, a comparison even to like human life. And I think you can compare it even to some of the characters we see introduced later on, which I'll talk about later.
He's sitting there having an existential crisis. He's looking at this crab. He's thinking about his sister off with the most important person in the world, as he describes Yasna, which I will talk about. And he's sitting there like, all our arms for is to wave around, and just to prove that we're alive. How do you know if we're alive without our arms? You're just sitting there. You're like, are you okay, bro? Like, do you need are you is everything all right?
Yeah, honestly.
He's not well mentally, and what you're really supposed to get from this chapter is how destitute and scary Shallan's family is. Shallan deliberately does not want to talk or to think about her father and her family, and she's very much trying to take in Kharbranth as she's there, because back in Yakaved, where Shallan is from, it is not a good scene.
Yeah, I this whole time I had assumed that where she's from was pleasant and her family were great people, and maybe the rest are. I'm hoping her non-Balat is not doing her any favors.
Yes. Speaking of, well, let's touch on axe hounds for a second. Axe hounds are their version of dogs. They have 8 legs and they have antenna, but you're certainly supposed to think of them as dogs. So like they're more companion-y than most other creatures we've found.
So is everything in this world like normal animal, but like as a crustacean, like
As a
Yes.
crab.
the
Yes.
dog? There's
Think
the chulls, right, which is just a horse
think
crab.
think
And
cow
then
but crab. Yes. And then axe
yeah,
hound
and
is
this is the
think
dog,
dog
but
but crab.
crab.
Yes.
Yes, I there's more crabs to come as well. We
There
again we're
are
talking about the big crab
there are
later.
more crabs to come. You're right.
It's a crabby
All the
book.
crabs.
All right. Speaking of people who aren't quite in the right headspace, let's talk about Zeth in I3, The Glory of Ignorance. This chapter is very interesting because you do get to understand the mechanics of his oath stone, but you don't understand why. So he explains the rules to his oath stone to his new master here, but you still don't understand why he has to do all of these things.
True. I was really excited whenever I found out that this was a chapter about Zeth, because we read about Zeth and him assassinating the king in the prologue, and he's the character I've been most curious about this whole time, and I was so excited. I think it's really interesting. I think the most notable thing, at least about his character that we see, is that he really did not. I don't think he wanted to assassinate King Gavilar. He did not. I view this whole, he's like working as a slave now, or a simple worker of
Mhm.
such, even though it clearly says he's like intelligent and such. This is, I guess, below him in a way. But he says, no one asks a common slave to assassinate someone.
Right.
And so he's taken this, he would rather do any kind of labor or any odd task, or even, you know, he even does like self harm or something. I mean, it's crazy what he does to avoid, I guess, this past he had in a way.
Yep. He will literally do anything except for take his own life
Mm-hmm.
for whoever was holding his oath stone.
Doesn't he even just say he's not allowed to take his own life?
Correct.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm not allowed to. I'm not qualified. Like,
I will definitely say that I gained at least a little bit of sympathy, and I'll say a little bit of sympathy for Zeth, in that we got definitely more explanation of why he's forced to do what he's do, or yeah, at least how he's forced to do what he's doing. And like you said, Paul, it's clear that he would prefer not to have to do these terrible things, such that he's happy doing needless manual labor tasks as long as they don't realize that they're wasting his incredible skill in all of the other terrible things that he could be doing. So I feel at least a little bit bad for Zeth, but I don't know. I still want to know what he did to become truthless before I give him a real pass.
I'm very curious too. At the moment, I have full sympathy for Zeth. I think I very much like the fact he's done this shows me that he at least has good intentions, or at least does not want to inflict pain on anyone. And so he's
Yeah.
trying to take what he can into his own hands, which is next to nothing. It seems like he really has no control over what he's doing, who tells him what to do and such. So I'm really, really curious about this oath stone, because I want to know who's behind that.
Me too.
Who's making him do all these bad things? Because Zeth seems awesome on his own, in my opinion. He's really cool. He might be like my favorite character, and I probably have more sympathy for him than anyone else at the moment. Unless there's some more bad stuff that I don't know about.
Okay. I do think it's interesting that all these dark eyes that find his oath stone or pass it from person to person, I do think it's interesting that they do always pass him off. They're always a little set off, or not set off put by Zeth. And so no matter how useful he is, no matter how much free labor he does, they do always end up trading him away because there's something not quite right about Zeth, and he off-puts everybody he meets.
Poor guy.
I thought that was an interesting question too, because if you think about it, it'd be pretty off-putting to me if some world-class scientist or world-class assassin, somebody who's way smarter than me, has done way more important things, is bound to be my slave. Like I don't know that I don't know that I could put up with having him do all my chores for me for a while. It would just get uncomfortable, and I'd probably pass him off too.
Right.
He's always a high stakes prize, so he's like easy to pass off. It's like he'll do what others can, plus all this extra stuff. So he's a really like high commodity, but it's interesting to see him in this lowly position, and such. But yeah, poor Zeth.
I definitely want to learn more about Zeth too.
He's my number one question at the moment.
I will say my first read, my sympathy level of Zeth was nowhere. Like I had zero sympathy for Zeth. So both of you actually have more. Both of you have more sympathy for Zeth than I did my first read through.
Yeah.
All right. Let's circle back to Ishik, the I-1. So for the first reader of The Way of Kings, or any Cosmere book for that matter, what you're supposed to get here is there's the Pure Lake, which is kind of a cool lake area that stretches as far as the eye can see, but you can walk anywhere in it. And the high storms aren't as ferocious here. It's a very simple life here. They're chill. They're looking for magic fish, and that's their entire life. Elliot, did you grab anything else besides those facts from this one?
Not really. My notes for this was this chapter makes no sense. Period. and there wasn't too much. There were a couple things that I did pull out. I'll mention those in a second, but I do think that I am glad that this chapter is in here regardless, even if this really means nothing to me as a first time reader, and it really is just a nugget in here for return readers. I still think it helps to build some world depth to Roshar and to this whole universe that we're in, because even though I don't know what's going on here, it just helps me understand that, hey, there's crazy big things going on in the stories we're reading, but there's also other stuff going on in completely different parts of the world that we're not even reading about.
Yeah.
Which just makes this world feel even bigger for me. So as a new reader, I still appreciate it that we get to see that Roshar is so much more diverse than I even thought. But a couple things I pulled out of this chapter, really just one. I have a crazy, bold, ridiculous prediction coming out of this chapter. The person that these hunters are looking for, I think they call him Hoyd. They call him Hoyd. or the Rome. Yeah, or they refer to him as the Roamer.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're following Noadon. I think they're trying to find Noadon, and that this is just another name for him.
Okay.
I like that.
All right, Paul, what did you gather from this chapter?
So whenever you mentioned that we were going to talk about Interlude 2 and 3 and then circle back to 1, I was actually sad because I wanted to talk about this right away, actually.
All right, we're here. What do you got?
I really liked this chapter. And the reason why I liked this chapter is because I love it whenever I see books and stories take people from all these like different settings and kind of put them together. And that hasn't happened, but I see a lot of potential here. We have Ishik, who's just, he's the simple fisherman, right? In this, I envision kind of like a rural, how do you say it? Small village type, setting. Everyone seems to know everyone, this small town setting. And it's very different from all the other characters we've seen. We've seen Kaladin and Shalon and such, where they're concerned with these, like, high estates and wars and knowledge and such. And I would love to see a character like Ishik later on somehow get involved in that way, almost like how Yao, but I think helps the story with Shallan. I think Ishik can do that with other types of characters and such. And also, total side note, I really enjoyed having the audiobook for this chapter specifically because I felt like it was I felt like it kind of helped portray the small town feel. You know, you have like the older fisherman who's like, "Ooh, Ishik," like,
Michael Kramer does do a fantastic job with this chapter specifically.
He does do a very good job, and it really like painted a good picture for me, and so I really enjoyed it, and stuff. It was really just a little glimpse at almost like small town drama. Almost, it's like talks about a girl that they're trying to get him to marry, and he just might let her catch her someday, and such. And I really enjoyed the painted picture of this kind of simple life, and I really liked Elliot's prediction with Noadon and such. My prediction as to why this is important is, I believe, Ishik or maybe someone from his village, someone who's comes from this simple life, is going to get incorporated into this a bigger picture story at some point, and that's what I really hope for.
Okay. So I could talk about this chapter for 20 minutes straight for other Cosmere readers, but I can't because that would be spoiler. So the only thing that I will say is remember Hoyd. Remember that name going forward. That's the only... Remember Hoyd, remember Ishik.
I'm glad you said that. I did not even remember Hoyd, so...
Hoyd is who the three hunters, the three foreigners are looking for. They hired Ishik to look for him for 5 months, and he did not find him anywhere in the Pure Lake. So, yep, remember Ishik, remember Hoyd, and that's all I have to say about that.
Awesome. Interludes done.
Interludes are done. All right.
Check.
Let's do a spell check before we go into chapter 12 and chapter 13 here. So we meet a lot of new characters, a lot of new terms coming in here. Let's start with the current king of Alethkar. Eliot, how would you like to pronounce this name?
So the current king... It's easy. It's like the third word in the chapter. I think it's pronounced King Elokar. King Elokar.
Okay. Paul, how would you like to spell this word?
Yeah, so Elokar, right? Elokar, and my best guess on how to spell it was Elokhar.
Okay. You
have all the right letters.
All the right letters are there. You've misplaced the H.
Is it before the L?
It's right after the L. So it's Elhokar is how it's spelled.
Okay. I see. Okay.
So King Elokar.
That's half a point. That's half a point.
And yeah, he has said King Elokar, the H is silent.
Yes.
Okay.
Ding ding.
All right, I got it.
All right, Elliot. The next one is the Alethi Highprince, who Adolin kind of gets his skin crawling. He doesn't like him.
Well, I'm glad we're not doing Adolin now because I definitely said that one Adolin in my head.
It's Adolin.
Adolin, got it. Okay. But the Highprince that he's not such a fan of definitely has to be Sadius, like Thaddeus, but with an S on the beginning. Sadius.
Okay. I believe it says his first name too. Does it say his first name in the chapter?
Oh. Does it?
I thought I was fairly certain it did.
Where is that in the chapter? I missed that.
But go ahead and
spell it while y'all look.
Yeah, go ahead and give us the spelling of Sadius.
Spell Sadius. This one, I thought it would be straightforward, but none of these ever are. My best guess is Sattius. Just going for a simple, how it sounds. Sadius.
So this might be your worst one yet, honestly.
Oh,
It's
now that I remember him saying Thaddeus, it's probably like a Deaus or whatever, however you spell Thaddeus. But yeah,
That's definitely closer.
yes. So the correct spelling is Sadeas. Sadius.
Eas.
Sadius.
Sadius.
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I'm fairly certain. His first name is Toril.
Spoiler.
Oral.
I'm kidding.
And
Toril.
Yeah. I was fairly certain it was in here somewhere.
I totally missed that.
If I were to try and spell Toril, I'm thinking back to when we discussed, in Vorin, they do the almost palindromes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would go with like a Torol, where it's like almost a palindrome.
Okay.
Toril. I kind of wanted to just do Torl, like Toril, but Torol, final answer.
Torol. You are correct. That is how you spell his first name. And I'm
actually very surprised I got that right.
After this episode, I'm going to go find it because I am 98% sure it's in this chapter somewhere.
Wow, I can't believe you just spoiled his first name for us.
His first name is Toril. All right, and the last one we hear I believe we hear the first one in chapter 12, but chapter 13 is where they're highlighted. The name of the special breed of horse that Dalinar and Adolin have. So Dalinar's his horse's name is Gallant, and Adolin's name is Sureblood. And so what is the name of their breed of horse? Eliot.
So I thought the big super awesome horses was pretty cool. And the name of them, which I thought I had on the page right in front of me, and now I don't. I want to say, oh, there it is. I definitely said Rishadium in my head. Rishadium.
Okay.
Is that close?
So Paul, how do they say it in the audiobook?
It's a long A sound. It's Rishadium.
Shadium. I would not have guessed that.
Yep. Okay.
That makes me less secure in my spelling, but we're gonna go with Rysha Diam.
You are so close. It is
so close.
With a U at the end.
It is with a U at the end. So
I overthought it, and I was like
Rysha Rishadium. Okay. Not our best spelling bee so far, but not our worst either. So
we tried.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So not bad.
One far off is Sadius.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about the people we've met in this chapter. We have Adolin, we have Dalinar, we have Renarin, Adolin's younger brother. We have King Elokar, we have Sadius, and we have Wit. And we've met a couple of the other officers, and we meet a scout, but these are the main characters that we're meeting. And I just want to highlight how high up in the ranks these guys are. This is the king, this is the king's uncle, his two sons, and the next most important Highprince. These are the guys in Alethkar, the men of power. This is who we're talking about.
I thought the book did actually a really good job of putting exactly what you're explaining it into perspective, because up until this point, we've been in the shoes of the foot soldier.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in Kaladin's shoes on the front line. We've been in the shoes of a slave, looking up at the shard bearer prince going by with a procession. And so now to be put in their perspective is kind of, whoa, this is different. We're now in the king as opposed to the slave running around carrying bridges around. So I definitely was in a little bit of awe coming into this chapter of, whoa, now we're talking about kings.
Yep. And Yasna is Elokar's older sister, if that helps you at all. So
it's still Dalinar. Would she be Dalinar's niece?
Yes.
Elokar is his nephew.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So the hardest part for me is keeping track of all these people that
Keeping it straight.
There were a lot of names,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all related or at least work together. But as best I understand it, Adolin and Renarin are Dalinar's kids, right?
Yes.
His sons. Okay. Then Elokar is the king. He was Gavilar's son.
Correct.
Okay. Gavilar was Dalinar's brother.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't know who the others were in relationship. They just like worked there, right?
Yeah.
Like they were.
So the other ones you're missing is Toril Sadius and Wit. And Wit is the king's wit. He's kind of the jester, if you will. That's kind of a loose term. And Brandon Sanderson explicitly says that he doesn't like that term because he's supposed to be so much more than that. He's almost a scholar more than a jester. He's supposed to do research on the Alethi High Court and be in with the gossip. And there's a sentence in here that they use to describe Wit. If you can't
I did think it was an interesting take on the court jester, if you will, because I've always felt like the court jester doesn't really serve any purpose.
Right.
He just is off in the corner doing his thing. But now we have the king's wit, who he feels like he has a purpose. Like the king is using him to gather information or distribute information or affect things in the court through the ways that is a way more clever usage of the goofy guy who goes around the court. I liked it a lot, actually, even though the guy seemed a little obnoxious.
Yeah, and he's supposed to seem a little obnoxious, and that's kind of the court jester side of him. But
right,
yeah, he is more than that.
I thought it was interesting. I do like that the wit is seemingly the king's like another pair of keen eyes and ears, right? Exactly. And it says specifically that the king's wit is not like comparable to like anything else.
Right, it's its own category. There's dark eyes, there's light eyes, and there's the king's wit. Yes,
just a one person thing. So it's really unique, and I want that to come into play more. But I feel like that's just kind of a detail that's thrown in there to make it interesting. But I don't fully get that.
It's okay. You'll get it later.
Yeah.
All will be.
Why don't I understand everything now?
You are reading the wrong book if you want all answers now.
Right now.
All right, and the majority of these new characters are shard bearers to one form or another. So if you are a shard bearer, that means you have one or both of the following. You either have Shardplate, Shardblade, a Shardblade, or both. And if you have one of those, you're considered a shard bearer. Shardplate is the most impressive suit of armor you've ever seen. Plus it glows with Stormlight. So it's powered with Stormlight. It gets cracked. It leaks Stormlight when it's when it breaks, as we'll see in chapter 13. It needs to be powered with Stormlight. And the Shard Blade, there's a couple rules to this one as well. It attaches to the soul of the owner, and you can summon it, but it requires 10 heartbeats to summon. And if it drops from you, it'll vanish, and then you can summon it again no matter where you dropped it.
pretty cool.
That is super cool.
think
Where do I
it's-
get one?
True. I think it's interesting with the heartbeat thing, because it could be like 2 seconds, or it could be like much longer for your heart to beat 10 times, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a purpose behind that, or if that's just kind of a unique, quirky little mechanic here, just to be cool.
Yeah.
Not.
I do think it's interesting that the more adrenaline they have, the faster they get their sword.
Which is useful in battle.
For sure.
True.
So you answered some of my questions on Shardblades, but Adolin makes a comment somewhere in these chapters about either Sadius or someone else dueling him for his Shardblade.
Mm-hmm.
Did I catch that correctly?
Yes.
So you said that the Shardblade is tied to their souls, but somehow you can take someone's Shardblade off of them and then you bind with it? Is that how that would work?
So this ties in to the Alethi honor codes, which will certainly be explained later. They touched on it, and they said that Dalinar is the only one that really cares anymore. But
Yes.
The Alethi honor and the Alethi presence and persona is very important to them. They're very showy. They love painting their armor cool colors. They're parading across this across the Shattered Plains as opposed to marching. It's very much a procession. They've got scribes with them. They've got banners. They have a bunch of their honor guard in their full colorful uniforms. It's very much a spectacle. And
this is just for a hunt, right?
Yes, they're hunting a Chasmfiend. And
so big parade just for a hunt.
As
Spectacle.
As it's shown in this next chapter, this hunt could certainly go wrong, and this isn't a fox hunt. This is a Chasmfiend hunt. They're hunting a big crab, as we said earlier.
This is a big crab.
The big crab. And yeah, so even if it's dangerous, they're willing to put the lives of their people at risk for the spectacle. They love the game, the pomp and circumstance, if you will.
The other element I noticed that was pretty cool about Shardblades and Shardplate was when they put their Shardplate helmets on, the sides of it turned translucent so that they could still at least somewhat see what was in battle. I thought that was a cool element of those.
Yeah, it's a nice feature, I guess, of the Shardplate, because if you've ever worn a medieval helmet, you'll know that you can see exactly about 10 degrees in front of you. And so it's just a convenient way to be like, oh, this is all the perks of armor and none of the downfall. So the Shardplate and the Alethi are very, very bright and very in your face.
With the one notable exception of Dalinar, right? They
Correct.
specifically describe him as not painting his armor and leaving it that dull gray color, which I think says a lot about his character, which I noticed was a very much the quintessential warrior. He's all about the usability, the pragmatic use of the armor, not necessarily the showiness of it. They talk about his adherence to the Alethi war codes, which I think it mentions no one for centuries has cared about, and just I don't know. Dalinar was different than the other high princes for sure.
Yeah,
very humble. One of my 2 words.
One of your 2 words.
Yes,
Let's
indeed.
go.
Something that they called him towards the end of chapter 13, I think, is they just casually threw it out there, was the Black Thorn. they call Adolin referred to him as the black thorn in his mind, and that this was very much the old Dalinar coming back through. He is, and this will be explained later as well, but he is known as the Blackthorn, the warlord, the warrior. And lately Adolin and Renarin have noticed that he's fading away from that, and they're a little concerned because that's who he's been all of his life. But when Elokar is in danger, the Blackthorn comes out, and he has all business.
Yeah, Dalinar is definitely depicted as this. I feel like there's some similarities between Dalinar and what we've seen of Kaladin so far, but also very, very different. Dalinar has this, very big care for, procedure and doing things well and kind of caring about people in a way, but no more than that. He doesn't care about flashy stuff like you were saying, Elliot. And he doesn't care for absurd behavior or all this stuff. Isn't there a conversation with him, and I could be wrong, with Adolin about the girls he's courting, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just can't keep up. He's not concerned about that. He doesn't care about the girls his son is talking to. He wants to do his job and do his job well. And I think that's a really great depiction. And he seems to be about the most upright, moral, hardworking character we've seen so far.
Definitely.
We can circle back to Wit here. Wit is that annoying, awkward family member that brings up awkward conversations in front of your parents. So on purpose. So
Yes.
Wit comes up to Adolin and he says, "Oh, you've taken yourself away from the camp's young women long enough for a hunt. How impressive of you!" And his father's like, "Oh yeah, how's that girl you're dating, whoever that was?" and then Renarin's like, "I don't. Who is he dating? I don't remember." But Renarin mentions her name, and then Dalinar says, "Wait, who is this? What about this other girl?"
I can't keep up.
And yeah,
Well, that was 2 girls ago.
yeah, and then Renarin's like, Dad, that was 2 months ago. We're way past that."
Yep.
Very funny. So we've kind of seen all these characters now, kind of getting them under our belts. There's a lot to come with that, but the big thing here, the big cool moment, is this Chasmfiend fight.
Oh man.
This is what really has hooked me into this book series. Like whenever I read this, I was like, "Whoa! Like this is awesome!" Like it was the first chapter that I was like, "I don't want to put this down. I want to see what's coming next." It was really epic. I love the imagery for this Chasmfiend. I'll be honest. The first time I looked into this chapter at all, I didn't get that it was a crab. I saw like 14 legs and just this massive size, and I was like, "Oh man, this is colossal." Also, one of my words. This is epic, and like it was a really unique description and depiction. And honestly, whenever I really like looked back over and saw that it was like a crawfish, and it kind of made the imagery slightly less epic in my mind. Not gonna lie, I'm just imagining a giant crawfish now.
If it helps you at all, my first listen through, I imagined a scorpion, a huge like scorpion skeletal type beast without like the stinger. It's just like this massive thing that's just like stomping its legs everywhere. It's more low and flat than it is like crawfish or whatever you said.
See, I totally had no crustacean insect stuff in mind. I thought it was a big like dinosaur. I was like, this is sick.
Yeah. underwater things and crabs and lobsters and stuff like freak me out. So this was a scary beast to face. Imagine a lobster or a crawfish that's 40 feet tall and has legs, claws the size of a horse, and it's just like, oh man, yeah. The epic meter just went to the top for sure on this chapter.
We've even seen like it kind of puts into perspective how massive and how strong these Chasmfiends are, because throughout the book we've seen it's been alluded to the strength of Shardplate and such, and then it talks about how the Chasmfiend, its claws are strong enough even for Shardplate, like it'll crunch right through it. So it kind of puts in perspective the magnitude here, and they talk about Adolin even mentioned, I think maybe it was Renard. I get the sons mixed up a little bit. It talks about, why do I have to be on this hunt? We just sit there baiting it for hours, shooting it with arrows until it's weak enough where we just go up to it, but it kind of shows how if you want to do this without dying, without getting seriously injured, you have to play it very safe with these Chasmfiends. But the depiction of the fight and such was really cool. Absolutely loved it.
The original plan was for them to bait the Chasmfiend onto this other plateau that they're not on, shoot it like 50,000 times with arrows, and then have Elokar ride across with his horse and kill it, and he's the one that killed the Chasmfiend. That's not quite how it turns out. They actually do end up in an actual fight with it. And Dalinar comes to save the day, but that wasn't the original plan. It was supposed to be an afternoon hunt.
So it even talks about whenever the fight begins that they're kind of almost in shock because the Chasmfiend suddenly on the same plane as them with all their they were like children and people who basically came to watch. It seems like it's a lot of casual bystanders who are now in potential danger.
Definitely did not go as planned, for sure. But it definitely gave for a very epic moment for both Dalinar and Elokar. Actually, I was impressed with Elokar's bravery and just defiance of this beast. Of it, the Chasmfiend has come upon him unawares, but Elokar doesn't hesitate. He charges right at the first second, and then there's an epic moment where Elokar is just shouting at the Chasmfiend defiantly. I claim your life. I am the king. A bit of recklessness in there, maybe, but definitely no fear. He's not scared of that thing.
Yeah. I wanna read a quote because I do want to explain a little bit of the economics here that's going on, because they do get gem hearts from these Chasmfiends. And
yeah, I had questions on that.
And we'll get there, but I want to read a quote while we're still on the characters of Elokar and Dalinar. So, this is right in the heat of the battle for both of these quotes. And it stops to highlight the dynamics between two of these characters. So there's a strange dynamic between Sadeas and Dalinar, which I'll talk about after this quote. It says, Sadeas stood in his red plate, taking another massive arrow from an attendant. He drew, launching the thick bolt into the Chasmfiend's shoulder with a sharp crack. Dalinar raised Oathbringer in salute. Sadeas acknowledged, raising his bow. They were not friends, and they did not like one another, but they would protect the king. That was the bond that united them. So this kingdom is not fully united, and that's highlighted by Dalinar's dreams that he's having that says unite them. That's itching at him that this kingdom isn't fully united, that they respect the throne, they're going to protect the throne, but they're not fully united. And Sadeas and him they're not friends. And And then I want to highlight Dalinar's dynamic relationship between Elhokar and him. This is a page and a half later. Something changed inside Dalinar. Reservations vanished. Other concerns became meaningless. His brother's son was in danger. He had failed Gavilar, had lain drunk in his wine, while his brother fought for his life. Dalinar should have been there to defend him. Only two things remained of his beloved brother. Two things that Dalinar could protect in a hope to earn some form of redemption. Gavilar's kingdom and Gavilar's son. Elhokar was alone and in danger. Nothing else mattered. So, Dalinar feels guilty for his brother's death, as he probably should, because he was drunk the night Szeth killed him. But it's to the point of eating him alive with guilt. He is terrified that the kingdom will fall apart, his brother's kingdom will fall apart, and his brother's son will die. So he feels overly protective, even to the point where Adolin is thrown from his horse and is in the same exact situation that Elhokar is in. And he turns to protect Elhokar, the king, as opposed to Adolin, his own son. Both of them are on the ground in their Shardplate underneath this Chasmfiend, and he goes to protect Elhokar.
Adolin must have felt pretty bad about that, I'm not gonna lie. Like, what?
But at the same time, I think you're right. Adolin definitely like, but Dad, yeah, me. But at that same time, Adolin recognizes that the old Dalinar has awakened in that moment. That what was his name? The Blackthorn.
The Blackthorn is his title. Yeah.
Back. Yeah.
Do we know why he has the title yet?
No.
Can you tell me?
No. The gem hearts. So Fabrials and soulcasters use gemstones to produce things from one thing to another. These Chasmfiends have hearts that are pure gemstone and have Stormlight in them. So not only are they fighting the Parshendi on the Shattered Plains, they are also hunting these Chasmfiends to sustain their wealth. They're using these Chasmfiends gem hearts to make food for the army and clothes and stuff, and they'll go into detail later. They deliberately don't have supply lines out to the Shattered Plains. Everything that is being made in the Shattered Plains is grown there or soulcast there. So they are using these Chasmfiends as a way to sustain the entire army. That's how powerful these gemstones are. They're so worth it to grab 2,000 men, march out onto the plateau for the afternoon, kill this thing, carve out its gem heart, and walk all the way back. That's how worth it these things are.
Interesting. And then also, did they talk about these Chasmfiends pupate in chrysalises?
Mm-hmm.
Chrysalises? I can't say that word, but
chrysalises.
Chrysalises, yeah.
But I think they talked about it in previous. They at least mentioned it in the previous chapters, and it seems like they allude to it a little more here. That when they're fighting against the Parshendi to take plateaus, they're trying to take chrysalises. Are these Chasmfiends that are trying to metamorphosis into something else, and they're killing them then to take their gem heart? Is that how that works, or do we know that yet?
Yes. So the Chasmfiends come up on top of the plateaus. They assume they live in the chasms between the plateaus, but they come out on top of the plateaus to pupate, and they have like scouts, which they'll explain later as well, looking out for these pupating Chasmfiends, and they run out there to try to get the gemstone and run back before the Parshendi get them. It's basically how the war works.
Got it. That makes sense now.
Which is why Sadeas is using bridge crews. Bridge crews are faster than like running bridge crews. the other high princes don't use them because they think it's a cheap use of life. But Sadeas is willing to sacrifice the lives of bridgemen to get out there faster.
Which is where poor Kaladin is.
Which is where Kaladin is.
Wow, it's all coming together.
Do you guys have any other questions on these chapters? I feel like we've covered them pretty well.
I think so. I think that was everything I had.
I don't have anything super profound or interesting left. I'm very curious to see where these characters go, and I would say I'm very curious to hear more about Dalinar. Mostly, I'm now curious to know why he's called the Black Thorn, and stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about these characters going forth.
So we are at the end of chapter 13. I will tell you that we have met the majority of our cast going forward. Who are you most intrigued for, Eliot?
Who am I most intrigued for? Probably the one I want to learn more about at this point is Dalinar, but that's probably just because we haven't seen too much of him yet. I think maybe the most intrigued is probably Kaladin. I'm really intrigued where Kaladin is going to go, where his journey goes from that pretty pivotal moment we saw from him before. But most curious to learn about would be Dalinar.
Okay. Paul?
Can I pick more than one?
No.
Yes.
You can have honorable mentions, but you can't.
Okay, I'll have an honorable mentions. Okay, yeah, I have my honorable mentions. I'm actually really curious about Sylphrena.
Okay.
I feel like this Windspren is not like the other Windspren, right? And I feel like there's something that we don't know, and that, I don't know, maybe she's not actually a Windspren. Maybe she's something different, and we're going to find out a lot more about that. I'm very curious to see if something with that happens. That's honestly what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping she's more than just a Windspren or something. My honorable mention is actually, okay, 2 honorable mentions. Szeth. I want to know more about Szeth.
Okay.
And Ishik. I'm assuming that's not going to happen for a long time, but thinking about that chapter's gotten me really curious where he's going to go, and I really want to see him collide somehow.
Okay. So I'm surprised Szeth didn't make your top, but I completely understand Syl.
Those two are right there. Like, I have more faith that we'll find out something cool about Szeth, but with Syl, if not, then I'll be kind of let down. I'm not gonna lie, but if there's nothing more, but I think there's a lot we don't know.
I'm with you.
I think there are plenty of pages that you don't know yet, so we'll get there. All right. I can say with confidence that we have closed out these chapters, and we will continue next week. Thanks for joining me, Eliot and Paul.
Peace.
Farewell.